I think the interesting thing is what's been operationalised as the response of the rest of the world, less a few very significant nations, and that is the sanctions. These have not been tried to this extent before. There were shades, to me, of 1938-39 in this. The predator, the predator's mates, the predated upon nations, if you like, the incremental rise of authoritarian actions against peaceful states. And this looks like 38-39. I mean, history sometimes repeats itself. So understanding the central characters is important, but I think deterrence is equally important. Deterrence can sit within military preparations, but I think we'd all say, and I'm a soldier and I say this, military force should be the last cab off the rank. Let's just see whether we can achieve the desired result, which is a restoration of peace and stability in the Ukraine through these very powerful sanctions. I'll tell you though, if I was sitting in Poland or any of the other nearby nations, I would be looking first and foremost at our military preparedness to protect our sovereign territory. Because if we were having this discussion now in Warsaw, there'd be a totally different approach, and they'd be examining every rifle and every tank and every military unit to see that they were prepared to defend their own Commonwealth. I think if we could discover that as a pathway, if we franchised it, the Church in Australia could be the richest institution in the world, because I think every stream of what might be called traditional belief, activity, and what have you is being forced through the prism of the information age. It's interesting to note that Catholicism remains extraordinarily vibrant in parts of the world which are not bombarded endlessly with information, opportunities, distractions that attach to the information age. Here, I think what we need is a sort of a discipline, or perhaps even a exploitation by the Church of the realities of the information age. So, I'm not saying mass by Zoom, but I've done enough Zooms that, I probably need to go to mass more often, I should think. The information age to me is such a determinant of current behaviour, even in the military, which has not just an ethos, but laws governing day-to-day conduct, has had to adapt mightily to the intrusion of the information age. Example, soldiers in Afghanistan return from a patrol in which some of their people have been blown up. Now, in days past, you'd arrive back and you'd de-stress them in some way, it would be all closed shop stuff and you'd do it. These days, those kids jump on the phone and ring up their dad and say, oh, you know what just happened 5 minutes ago? Bill Smith got blown up outside there and nobody's doing anything. Yeah, we're all in terrible shape. And, there's a way of doing that. You just say nobody's allowed to have a phone. So that's an outcome of the information age, which we the military, have had to confront. I could go even further. You'll see that dreadful side of the soldier that's apparently executing a man in a field. That's on a body cam. Okay, that's a fact of life. So I don't know what would have happened in years past without a body cam. It would have been he says, she says, or whatever, you know. But nowadays, well, whoever that person is will at some stage answer a charge. The information age has done this, and you cannot get that toothpaste back into that tube, so we just have to adapt and use the information age to the way in which we enlist and retain our younger Australians to propagate the faith. Yeah, I think so. Look, it's the method of getting there. And there is something odd about the way in which we portray that historical linkage, Her Majesty the Queen. She's a wonderful person, and nothing different happens in Australia if we change the term Governor-General to President, if that's the term we use, provided we don't, in some shallow way, damage our Westminster system, which is the accountability of the Parliament. Because by definition, if you vote for yourself for a president, you've given that man or woman a mandate. Doesn't matter if they stand there saying not a word, but they become the president by popular vote. They have a mandate, and they'll start throwing their weight around. We do need somebody who is the steward and the guardian of the Constitution outside of the courts, so that the day-to-day stuff that the government does can be regulated by close scrutiny and application of the ordinary conventions of the Constitution. And the Governor-General does that. Well, you don't want a locus of power that sits outside the Parliament, because if that's a popularly elected person, as I said, they get an assumed mandate. If it's somebody created by the Parliament, it has to be in a way where it's non-partisan, and that that person ultimately will leave the job at the end of a term. There's ways of doing it. I wrote about it in my... I did write about it because, to me, that's the clue. And if we get to a point of being able to have an Australian who is to be called other than the Governor-General, which is sort of attached to the royal model, the constitutional monarchy model, and we call that person a president, let them be a guardian and not a player.